Good evening. This is Thursday, March 6th, 243 days until the 2008 presidential election. Having last Saturday in Austin suggested that she and John McCain will each be able to campaign on their lifetime of experience, but Barack Obama will only be able to put forth a speech in 2002. Having last Monday in Toledo stated she and Senator McCain will each bring that lifetime of experience to the White House, but Senator Obama would only have that speech. Having today in Washington announced that she and Senator McCain have each crossed the commander-in-chief threshold, but you'll have to ask Senator Obama with respect to his candidacy. Our fifth story on the countdown tonight begins with a rhetorical question. Hyperbole for sure, but maybe not that much hyperbole. Would Senator Clinton really prefer to see McCain become president than Obama? And if so, would that not make her a Lieberman Republican or maybe a McCain Democrat? Senator Clinton's comments coming at a news conference beginning with a photo op with military officers, the better to drive home her contention that only she and the presumptive Republican nominee are qualified to be commander-in-chief.
Look, I have said that Senator McCain will bring a lifetime of experience to the campaign. I will bring a lifetime of experience, and Senator Obama will bring a speech that he gave in 2002. I think that is a significant difference. I think that since we now know Senator McCain will be the nominee for the Republican Party, national security will be front and center in this election. We all know that. And I think it's imperative that each of us be able to demonstrate we can cross the commander-in-chief threshold. And I believe that I've done that. Certainly Senator McCain has done that, and you'll have to ask Senator Obama with respect to his candidacy.
Earlier in the same news conference, Senator Clinton addressing her role when her husband answered middle-of-the-night phone calls during his administration.
Obviously, I was there for a lot of phone calls at different times of the day and night, and I have a very clear idea of what it takes to be prepared and ready to not only answer the phone, but then to make the decisions that are required depending upon what the crisis is.
And the 3 a.m. phone call theme now seeming to carry over into health care reform and a new radio commercial that the Clinton campaign has launched in Wyoming. The Democratic caucus is there convening Saturday. The ad features a woman talking about her son who has a heart condition and how she says he has benefited from the S-chip program that Senator Clinton supported.
I've met her. I've read her health care plan. I remember walking up to her and saying, I would feel a lot more safe if you were president than I have in many, many years. She's going to help me, and she's going to help my family. I know she's the one with the strength and the heart to stand up for all of us.
Earlier in the day, in what was originally thought to have been the high watermark of jaw-dropping behavior from the Clinton campaign, senior advisor Ann Lewis, absent any hint of irony, first challenging Senator Obama to start running a more positive campaign, then communications director Howard Wolfson comparing the Illinois Democrat to, and if you have food in your mouth, spit it out or ingest it now, Kenneth Starr of Whitewater Independent Counsel infamy.
Senator Obama was confronted with questions over whether he was ready to be commander-in-chief and steward of the economy. He chose not to address those questions, but to attack Senator Clinton, and that's what we're pointing out. And I, for one, do not believe that imitating Ken Starr is the way to win a Democratic primary election for president. But perhaps that theory will be tested.
Obama's press secretary, Bill Burton, responding, quote, "It is absurd that after weeks of badgering the media to vet Senator Obama, the Clinton campaign believes that they should be held to an entirely different standard. We don't believe that expecting candidates for the presidency to disclose their tax returns somehow constitutes Ken Starr tactics, but the kind of transparency and accountability that Americans are looking for and that's been missing in Washington for far too long. And if Senator Clinton doesn't think that the Republicans will ask these very same questions, then she's not as ready to go toe-to-toe with John McCain as she claims." Something Senator Clinton left out of her claim that Senator Obama is less qualified to compete against Senator McCain in the general election. The latest polls. New head-to-head matchups from the Washington Post. Senator Clinton leading Senator McCain by 6 points. The Keith number of neither plus would not vote plus no opinion plus margin of error is 9%. However, Senator Obama bests the presumptive Republican nominee by 12 with a Keith number of less than that, just 11. And about Florida and Michigan tonight, Democratic Senator Bill Nelson of Florida has written to Howard Dean to suggest the Democratic National Committee either seat the delegates chosen in the decertified Florida primary in January or pay for a new Florida primary itself. Senator Clinton has tonight presented a veto long before her prospective administration would begin. I would not accept a caucus, she tells U.S. News and World Report. I think that would be a great disservice to the 2 million people who turned out and voted. I think that they want their votes counted, and you know a lot of people would be disenfranchised because of the timing and whatever the particular rules were. Later on, she said, and I don't think there should be any do-over or any kind of a second run in Florida. I think Florida should be ceded. Earlier today, she had said she was willing to leave it to the states. Time now to bring in our own Richard Wolff, senior White House correspondent for Newsweek magazine. Richard, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
Florida and Michigan in a moment. But when Senator Clinton today says what she said about Senator McCain, what she said about him Saturday in Austin, what she said about him Monday in Toledo, what realistically separates her from Senator Lieberman of Connecticut, and at what point might it risk crossing the line into, for all intents and purposes, an endorsement of McCain?
Well, all she has to do now, I think, is kiss President Bush on the cheek, and she'll be just like Joe Lieberman. You know, there are a lot of interesting comparisons here. She's so hawkish on the war, on other issues of national security, very strongly free trade, and also very strongly pro-business. I mean, a DLC type, just like Joe Lieberman. And I think the comparisons with their attitudes towards McCain are really quite striking. You've got to ask yourself what she finds so threatening about Barack Obama that John McCain is more palatable as commander-in-chief. And finally, if she wants to compare herself to John McCain and their experience, she's opening herself up to a huge amount of criticism. Is she really equating her time in the East Wing with his time in the Hanoi Hilton? Is she equating his service in the United States military with flying in to the former Yugoslavia, with Sheryl Crow and Sinbad? I mean, these comparisons are not helpful for her.
Well, perhaps the experience of Sinbad is analogous, but we'll leave that for another time. We'll look at the McCain factor also in depth in a moment, but I want to cover this raft of the other headlines today from the campaign with you. Howard Wolfson analogizing Obama to Ken Starr. A multi-million-dollar independent counsel investigation into the real estate dealings run amok that bled into this Monica Lewinsky farce equals a request to release their tax returns. I mean, I think I may be uniquely qualified in saying I covered Ken Starr, and Senator, you're no Ken Starr. How does this not make the man who says this and the candidate he works for look nuts?
Yeah, well, remember that Ken Starr, Lewinsky, these are not names that have really ever come across the lips of the Obama campaign. They don't want to go there. And as long as the Clinton campaign wants to raise this one, well, they're reminding voters about, for a start, this terrible period that they were involved with. But also, you know, for a whole raft, a whole generation of voters who've shown up, whom the Clintons are trying to attract, voters under 30, this means nothing. Mm-hmm. So the comparison is outlandish. And I've often thought that as a pattern through this whole cycle, what we've seen time and again, when the Clinton campaign has a moment of opportunity, they also suffer from overreach. And this is clearly a case.
Her opposition tonight to a new Florida vote or Michigan caucus or some combination thereof, I don't think any of that is really news nor a surprise. I mean, she perceives those as two victories. But this phrasing, I won't accept a caucus, does she have final say on this, first of all? And is the implication there lawsuit if necessary?
Oh, I'm sure there will be some litigation at some point. But they've also been very selective about what votes really count and what don't. Certain type of states, certain types of voting. Caucuses are pretty well established in many states, have been for many, many years. But this also has to be a plan that is agreed by both sides. And ultimately, if the DNC can't broker an agreement between them, then there will be no do-over.
Okay, into the back room or the courtroom. Richard Wolff of Newsweek magazine and, when we're fortunate, MSNBC. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Keith.
Back to the headline. Given the Republicans' relative low profile, this might be close to literally true since last Saturday. Senator Clinton in that time may have mentioned Senator John McCain more than Senator John McCain has mentioned Senator John McCain, and more positively. 3 versions now of the lifetime experience quote complimenting him and by implication denigrating Senator Obama, the commander-in-chief threshold stuff from today, and even a little more. At that same news conference, she today called McCain a good friend and, quote, a distinguished man with a great history of service to our country. What is this fascination with and positive attitude towards the man chosen to keep her party, and if she's the nominee, keep her out of the White House?